Okay, let's unpack this. We're stepping into some territory here that, frankly, few expected to hear about in a federal trial, especially one involving such a well-known figure.
Yeah, this isn't just recapping news. We're really diving into the sources you've provided.
Exactly. We're looking at the verbatim courtroom testimony of Jennifer Lawrence. This is from day 8 of the federal trial against Sean Diddy Combs.
And her identity as a witness was sealed until recently.
Right. And that wasn't just a celebrity thing, you know? It was because of what she apparently witnessed, what she experienced, and the immense pressure she faced for years to keep quiet.
Absolutely.
So our mission here in this deep dive is to take that raw court transcript and also the exhibits that were introduced, actual letters, notes, internal reports, documents.
Tangible evidence.
Exactly. And guide you through her account as she gave it on the stand under oath. It's her words, backed by this evidence.
And that combination, it's really powerful, isn't it? We're not just hearing a narrative, we're seeing the actual documents she's referring to.
Right.
So when we mention Exhibit 17A or 18C, these are real things the jury saw. The transcript gives us the thread, but the exhibits, they anchor it.
Totally. So let's set the scene. Federal courtroom, huge trial, and this moment where a previously anonymous witness, Jennifer Lawrence, takes the stand.
And she doesn't start with the recent stuff, or even those public allegations people might know about.
No, she takes the court back, way back, over a decade, to something pretty unexpected.
Yeah, she starts with this event in 2012.
Right, pitched as a private gala, Beverly Hills, supposedly charity for young creatives, actors focused on film, branding, development, that kind of thing.
She was young then, right? Early in her career, post-Hunger Games fame starting to explode.
Yeah, exactly. Told she was one of the lucky few invited, but as she put it later in her testimony, she said she wasn't lucky, she was bait.
Wow. And the details she gave about arriving,
Mm-hmm.
they immediately sound off, don't they?
Oh, completely. Driven in a black SUV, no plates, phone taken right at the gate. I mean, that's not standard Gale protocol.
Not at all. And then being asked to sign a release form, but without really knowing what for.
She thought maybe photos or perhaps some panel discussion she didn't know about. But no, she walks in and it's different.
She said, no cameras anywhere, just red lights, dark hallways, men in suits everywhere, and women wearing masks.
The masks, that's chilling.
Yeah, and she even recognized one of the masked women, an actress she knew, someone famous, who looked, in her words, absolutely terrified.
And they tried to play it off.
They told her it was just a game, that she didn't have to do anything she wasn't comfortable with. But her testimony was clear. Once you were inside, that was it. You couldn't just leave.
You just had to, smile and play your part.
And I hope you didn't end up in, quote, the wrong room. She described seeing these numbered doors along a hallway.
And seeing a young girl come out of one room, crying hysterically.
And hearing later about another girl who went into a room and, well, never came back that night.
God, that's awful. It led her to ask herself this question, right? She shared it in court.
Yeah. Is this it? Is this where the stories come from? Just imagine thinking that.
And the impact on her was immediate. You mentioned Exhibit 17A.
Right, a sealed report from her team back then. It backs up her account. She returned from that event in shock, showing clear symptoms of dissociation trauma.
Her team put her on a media break, didn't they? Said it was exhaustion from the Hunger Games tour.
That was the public story.
Mm-hmm.
But she testified the truth was she didn't sleep for 3 days, just trapped. Picturing that hallway, the layout, the smell, the sounds. She said she still hears it sometimes.
Which is just heavy. But her reaction wasn't just internal trauma. There's evidence from right back then, isn't there? This letter.
Yes, a crucial piece. Handwritten, torn letter from 2012. She was only 22. And this was years before Cassie's lawsuit ever surfaced.
So this is her immediate reaction captured on paper. Exhibit 18A.
That's the one. It's powerful because it's contemporaneous. It shows her mindset right after that event. She read parts of it in court.
What did it say?
Key lines like, to whoever's pulling the strings, this is your last warning. I won't let you buy me.
Wow.
I won't disappear, and I won't be the next Cassie.
I won't be the next Cassie. Written back in 2012. Knowing everything we know now, that just sends chills down your spine.
It really does. It shows she saw a potential pattern even then, and immediately resisted being part of it.
She didn't just talk about the creepy atmosphere, right? She saw something specific happen.
Yeah, she testified about witnessing what she felt was morally criminal. She focused on that young girl, younger than her, being told she was just here for training.
Okay.
And being treated, quote, like she was an object, like she didn't even exist.
And that led to a realization for her about fame not being a shield in those situations.
Exactly. She testified, "No one is famous in there. You're either useful or replaceable." Stark.
So after that night, after writing that incredibly powerful letter, she enters this period of silence she described.
But for 5 years, yeah. Where she just tried to put it away, pretended she was fine, focused on her career, compartmentalized it.
But even though she was silent publicly, things didn't completely stop, did they? Attempts to sort of re-engage her.
That's what's fascinating. Years later, on 2017, invites started coming again, but indirectly. One really stood out.
Which one was that?
An invite to a retreat for forward-thinking female talent hosted by Sean Lovecombs, sent via encrypted email through her old publicist.
Okay, sounds vaguely positive on the surface.
The description was like, Santa Anne's, off-grid, no press, just peace. She declined it.
But that wasn't the end of it.
No. The creative liaison on the email, Ariel D., followed up.
Yeah.
A week later, Jennifer gets a call. Blocked number.
Oh, man.
She said she doesn't know why she answered, but she did. And it was Ariel D., saying something incredibly specific, chillingly so.
What was it?
It's not like last time. That house is gone. The tunnels are sealed. This is about rebirth.
Whoa. How would Ariel D know anything about last time or tunnels or anything she'd seen? She hadn't told anyone, right?
Exactly. She testified her shock was immense. How did Ariel know about that specific hallway? Or the padded one she'd apparently glimpsed? She hadn't told a soul.
And Ariel's tone.
Calm. Too calm, Jennifer said. Like reading a script. The ask was minimal. Just show up, walk through. That's all he needs.
Just show up. What did she do?
Hung up immediately. Reported the call to her legal team. They advised her just to ignore it, not engage.
So that call feels like, what, a probe, a test to see if she's still compliant, still silent.
It seems like it, yeah. Framed as something new, something different, safer. But then came the follow-up, which was anything but subtle.
What happened?
The very next day, she finds an envelope in her trailer. No return address. Inside, just a copy of that unsigned NDA from the 2012 party.
The one she signed walking in.
The copy she had was unsigned. And across the front, scribbled in thick red ink, was just one word: reminder.
Reminder. Wow, that is terrifyingly direct.
Yeah. As she testified, that broke me. That was them saying, we're still watching, we still own the story.
Did she tell anyone about that?
Not at the time, no. But she wrote another entry in her private journal, Exhibit 17E.
What did that one say?
It read, if I disappear, send this letter. It wasn't an accident. It started in the Red Room. It ends here. Shows the fear was still very, very real years later.
Okay, so her testimony then jumps forward again to another event.
Yes, to 2014. An after-party during a promotional trip, this time on Star Island in Miami.
Another party invite. How was this one presented?
Supposedly a small, elite thing hosted by a streaming exec at a private mansion. Low-key.
But the setup sounded familiar.
Yeah, she described low music, those red lights again filtering through the space, drinks being covered, and everyone had to put their phones in bags at the door. Standard procedure for these kinds of parties, apparently.
She was told it was a window, like a casual meeting of execs and press.
Right, but she said it felt completely staged, not natural.
And she described a specific room again.
Yes, brought into this room within the mansion. 4 leather couches, marble bar, and one wall, entirely made of mirrors that were tinted from behind.
Tinted from behind. So, one-way mirrors. Okay. Did she stay long?
No. She testified that another woman already in that room recognized her, leaned in close, and whispered, "You don't belong here, sweetheart."
Just like that. A warning from a stranger.
Yeah, and that was enough for Jennifer. She left before midnight.
But the story didn't end there, right? Something happened days later.
Right. Days later, back on the set of X-Men. Apocalypse, she finds something in her dressing room, tucked into the sleeve of a jacket someone had gifted her.
What was it?
A small handwritten note.
Another note.
Yeah.
And this one was Exhibit 18A.
Correct. Just a
Ah.
few stark words on it. That room had 3 cameras. One was above the mirror. Tell your team nothing.
Tell her team nothing. Wow. Someone risked giving her that warning. Did she tell anyone then?
She got the note, but no, she testified she didn't tell anyone at the time. Then she described seeing something later
What was that?
on a rep's laptop. A video clip. She was clear. It wasn't necessarily from that exact night in Miami, but she instantly recognized the room. The mirror wall, a specific chair in the center. It was the same room.
And what were the details of this clip?
She told the court. Undated, unlabeled, in a folder titled something like Event No IDs, about 12 seconds long. And crucially, no faces visible.
No faces. Did she report seeing it?
Yes, she reported it to her lawyer. What happened next was interesting. The laptop was wiped clean shortly after, and the rep who had the laptop reportedly resigned just days later.
But the judge had an issue with this part of the testimony.
Yeah, the judge sustained a defense objection, ruled that discussing the content of the clip itself was unverified hearsay since the clip was gone and couldn't be examined. But the judge acknowledged the emotional weight of her seeing it remained relevant for the jury.
Got it. And something else happened right after she reported seeing that clip.
Yeah, her trailer was broken into, but nothing was stolen, just reorganized, as she put it.
Reorganized. Another subtle, creepy message.
And she testified that this cluster of events, the Miami party, the warning note, seeing that clip, the trailer break-in, that's when it really clicked for her.
Clicked how?
She realized this wasn't random. This wasn't just one party in 2012. It was all connected.
Connected. How?
That there were cameras, there were files being kept, there were people who knew what was going on. It wasn't just isolated incidents, but some kind of underlying, she called it an infrastructure.
An infrastructure? For what?
A silence machine was the term she used later in her testimony.
The silence machine. That's a powerful way to put it. Did she describe other ways this machine worked besides the intimidation and, well, apparent surveillance?
Yeah, she talked about the financial and contractual side.
Yeah.
How around 2013, not long after that first Beverly Hills event,
Okay.
she started seeing this new type of clause pop up in deals she was being offered. Endorsements, TV show proposals, things like that.
What kind of cause?
It required her to refrain from disclosing any non-public development sessions involving Combs-affiliated figures, past or present.
That sounds incredibly broad and kind of weirdly specific at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She testified she'd never seen anything like it. It wasn't a standard morality clause. It felt, quote, preemptive, like they knew what I might say before I even thought it.
Preemptive, like they were trying to gag her about things she hadn't even spoken about. Did she sign it?
No, she declined that specific deal because of the clause. But she noticed similar language, maybe worded differently but with the same function, started appearing in other contracts offered to her over the next few years.
And the function was?
If I spoke, the money stopped. Simple as that.
And there was evidence presented about this pattern, not just her deals.
Yes, Exhibit 18C. It was a redacted breakdown showing similar contract language being used with other female artists over about a 5-year period.
So it wasn't just targeted at her.
Seems like it was part of a broader strategy. And there was one phrase within these clauses that really stood out. Jennifer Lawrence read it aloud in court.
What was the phrase?
Legacy disruption.
Legacy disruption. What did you think that meant?
Her interpretation was crystal clear. She testified that's what they're scared of. Not just lawsuits, but the damage to reputation, to the carefully crafted legacy if people spoke out.
And it wasn't just about restrictive clauses, right? They actually offered her money to stay quiet.
Oh, yeah. She described explicit offers of hush money, called it wires, consulting fees, clauses buried deep in brand deals, direct attempts to buy her silence.
And her response?
She testified she told her team walk every time, refused any money tied to keeping quiet.
Which really highlights how systematic this pressure was. Intimidation, surveillance, contracts, and straight-up cash offers.
It paints a picture of a multi-pronged effort. And she stated her belief that she wasn't the only one, that there are more people affected.
More people. How?
Some who walked in, some who never walked out, was her phrasing. She mentioned connecting dots over the years, thinking about Cassie, Aubrey O'Day, even someone who used to be on her own professional team.
Wow. Did she mention any other specific people who seemed aware of this stuff?
She did share one specific story. Involved another major A-list actress, someone she described as bigger than me.
Okay.
This actress was supposed to go to a different retreat in 2020, one Jennifer was also invited to. But 2 days before, the actress pulled out and texted Jennifer a coded message.
What did the text say?
If you value peace, don't go. There are mirrors there.
Mirrors there, and what did that mean?
Jennifer testified that mirrors had become a kind of code word among some people who moved in those circles. It meant being watched, being recorded in those controlled party environments.
So the knowledge, the fear, the coded language, it went beyond just her own experiences.
It definitely suggests a wider, albeit perhaps hidden, awareness within that sphere.
And the fear factor. She testified about another incident that seemed to heighten that, right? Involving a photographer.
Yeah, in 2022, this happened just 2 weeks after she received a blank flash drive that was mysteriously left on her doorstep. That was Exhibit 17G.
A blank flash drive.
Okay.
And the photographer.
went missing after an event that was supposed to be totally private, off the books. But someone knew she'd be there.
And what happened to the photographer?
Their phone pinged once, near Mulholland Drive, apparently. Then later found, shattered, battery removed.
Oh my God. How did she react to that news?
She described being incredibly disturbed. And under questioning about her state of mind then, she shared this speculation she had with the court.
What was it?
She wondered, what if that flash drive was just to test me? What if someone else paid the price for me not playing along?
That's a heavy thought to carry. Did the judge allow that?
Allowed it for context, to show her emotional state and the climate of fear, even if it wasn't direct proof of a connection. It just shows the paranoia these kinds of events created.
And then there is that leaked memo from the PR firm.
Exhibit 17H, yeah. An internal memo from a now-defunct PR firm linked to Combs Global. Found during a federal data sweep, it basically outlined messaging protocols for handling talent allegations.
And her name was in it.
Reportedly, yes. On a redacted line, her situation was assessed as unlikely to escalate due to brand protection instincts.
Brand protection instincts. So they basically predicted she'd stay quiet to protect her career.
Pretty much. She testified seeing that made her feel predictable, like they had her figured out. And she acknowledged, they were right for a while.
She stayed quiet publicly, kept working.
Smiled, stayed booked.
Okay.
But she emphasized the cost. Hasn't slept right in 10 years because of it all.
And even manipulative efforts framed as positives continued, didn't they? Like that award nomination.
Right. March 2023, nominated for a Creative Empowerment Award from some organization sponsored by the Combs Foundation. She declined it.
But it wasn't that simple.
No. She testified she received a pre-written press release draft before she'd even formally responded to the nomination.
A pre-written draft. Quoting her.
Yes. Quoting her, thanking Diddy for investing in young voices. She confirmed the quote was completely fake. And the award itself seemed questionable. That was Exhibit 18F.
So she declined, but they tried to control the narrative anyway.
Her statement declining was apparently buried, made it look like a non-event. She said it felt like a scripted moment she'd ruined and that no one asked why I backed out. Just silence.
And then, shortly after she declined that award, more direct harassment.
Yeah, about 2 weeks later, a box arrived.
Yeah?
Inside, latex gloves, glitter, and a blacked-out Polaroid photo.
A blacked-out Polaroid.
With a handwritten caption, "You looked better in red lighting."
Oh, that is deeply unsettling. Red lighting again.
She testified she reported it immediately. And she knew exactly what it meant, a direct message linked to a specific room, maybe that freak-off room mentioned elsewhere, referencing the red lights, the gloves sometimes seen in those settings. A clear reminder. We saw you. We remember.
So even when she wasn't maybe feeling direct physical danger all the time, this feeling of being watched, controlled, erased.
Yes, erased was the word she used.
Yeah.
Erased every time she said no, refused to play the game, refused to be silent.
And that feeling led to a really powerful statement she made on the stand, didn't it? About the myth of safety in Hollywood.
Absolutely. She looked right at the jury. Just said there's this idea, this myth, that if you just work hard, keep your head down, play safe, smile, you'll be okay, you'll be protected.
And she called it.
That's a lie. She said, I did everything right, and they still came for me.
Wow.
And at that moment, she actually held up that original letter from 2012, the one she wrote right after the first part.
Yeah, I had it with her.
Yeah. Held it up and said, this letter existed before any of the movies, the awards, the magazine covers. This is who I was before the world knew my name, and now it's who I am again.
That's incredibly powerful. Using that letter as proof of her authentic self before all the pressure. What was the final straw, though? The moment she decided, okay, I'm done being silent.
She pinpointed it to late 2022, an industry fundraising gala in LA. Seemed normal enough. But at the coat check, an older man approached her.
Someone she knew.
She recognized him. A lawyer she'd seen years before at a meeting connected to Diddy. He just looked at her and said, still walking around like you're untouchable, huh?
Oh, come on. That's blatant intimidation.
She asked him what he meant. He just smiled and said, you should have signed the first time.
Signed what? The NDA, the contracts. Just, wow.
Clearly a threat.
Uh-huh.
A reminder they thought they still had something on her. But she testified it had the opposite effect. She left the gala right then, went to her team, and said,
What?
I'm done. I'm not afraid of these people anymore.
That was a turning point.
It seems so. Her realization was profound. She testified, they've spent years making us believe we need their approval, that their parties are power, that silence is the price of fame.
But she hadn't paid it.
But I'm still here, she said, and I didn't pay it.
So that confrontation, that threat, actually solidified her resolve.
Absolutely. And she testified that later, when she saw the actual indictment against Combs and saw the word trafficking,
Yeah.
her first thought was, it could have been me. And that's when she felt her silence had truly expired.
Which led her to reach out to Cassie after Cassie's civil suit went public.
Yes. She described meeting Cassie privately. Back hallway on a studio lot. No security, no press. Just them.
What happened?
Cassie didn't say much, apparently. Just hugged her and said thank you for not asking questions back then. Because she, Kathy, couldn't have answered them.
That's heartbreaking. Did Jennifer share her own memories of Cassie from back then?
She did. She remembered seeing Cassie years before in those same kinds of rooms she described. Rooms with candles, rooms with lists, rooms with watchers.
Okay.
Jennifer testified that back then she didn't fully grasp what she was seeing, but she felt Cassie did. And yet Cassie still smiled through it. That image, that resilience, it stuck with her.
And how did her own 2012 letter end up with the feds? Exhibit 18I.
She'd given it to her attorney years later during a deposition for something unrelated. He read it, realized its potential significance, and asked her, are you ready for this to go further?
And she said yes.
She said yes. It was submitted under seal. She testified the judge read it personally about 6 months before she was called to testify.
And then on the stand, she read the end of that letter herself.
Yeah, the final lines for the whole courtroom.
Can you remind us?
I am not a victim. I am not a product. I am not a secret. If this letter ever reaches you, it means I chose myself over your silence and you don't own me anymore.
You don't own me anymore. Powerful. And she connected that directly to Cassie, didn't she?
Right after reading it, she said, the first time I saw Cassie, she was walking through a door she didn't want to open. And now she's the reason I opened mine. Court report said you could hear a pin drop.
Just unbelievable courage. And even after deciding to testify, after connecting with Cassie, there was still one more attempt to silence her.
Yeah. Just 3 weeks before she took the stand, a message came through an old assistant, Exhibit 18J.
What did this message say?
Simple.
Yeah.
Chilling. We all have things to lose. Don't lose yours over a letter. The court confirmed the message was real.
Unbelievable pressure right up to the end. How did she react to that final threat?
She testified she actually slept with her original 2012 letter under her pillow that night.
Wow.
And she thought, they've already written my silence into so many contracts, I had to write my truth somewhere.
She had to hold on to that truth. And her final statements on the stand, they were about the aftermath.
Yeah, about what happens after. After the fame, the awards, surviving something like this. She looked at the jury, said none of the Hollywood stuff erases what she saw in that house.
Because
That house, it lives in your head. The smell, the cold, the silence, the mirrors.
she shared that chilling thought about applause.
Yeah, that sometimes when she gets a standing ovation, she wonders if someone clapping was actually in that room with her back then.
But her purpose wasn't pity, right?
No, she was clear. Not pity, not revenge. It was about reaching girls watching this trial right now, wondering if anyone will believe them.
And her message to them.
I believe you, even if you never say it out loud.
And she read one last line from her journal.
From the morning after that first night in 2012, the last line she wrote then, I got out, but I still carry the door inside me.
I still carry the door inside me. What a haunting line.
And her very final words under oath kind of summed it all up. She said she wasn't supposed to testify. She was supposed to just vanish quietly.
Which is what they always count on.
Exactly. But not this time, she said, because I'm still here and now the door is open. Court transcripts noted the jury was visibly shaken, that the truth had, quote, escaped.
Wow, okay. That was an incredibly intense journey through her testimony and the evidence. We've heard the specifics, the chilling accounts, the tactics used over so many years.
Yeah, from terrifying parties and threats to those manipulative contracts and fake awards. It's a lot.
It really paints this picture, like you said, that goes way beyond just one bad night. It suggests this sustained, organized effort.
That silence machine, she described, aimed at control, suppression. And her testimony with those exhibits backing it up wasn't just her story. It was sworn evidence challenging that whole system in federal court.
Absolutely. It brings up huge questions, doesn't it? About power, about the pressures that can exist, maybe unseen even at the highest levels, the cost of silence.
For sure. And you're left thinking about those powerful images she used, especially that last one from her journal. I got out, but I still carry the door inside me.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean, to carry that door after surviving something like that?
Yeah.
And now that she decided to open it for everyone,
Yeah.
what happens next?
It really makes you think about the ripple effects, doesn't it? When one person, facing all that pressure, chooses to speak out anyway.